Galaxy. An ancient auction sells more than artifacts, it sells secrets long buried. When a young noble buys a silent, chained human, she thinks she's made a bold, curious choice. But the moment he speaks his name, her ship changes, her crew trembles, and the stars themselves begin to remember. He isn't just a man, he's a warning. And now, the galaxy must decide. Will it kneel or will it burn? If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. The market rings of frail drift echoed with strange music and stranger voices. Lights flickered from above, casting dim patterns over the cracked metal floors. Creatures of every kind moved between stalls, trading, laughing, lying. The scent of smoke, spice, and engine oil mixed in the air. Somewhere in the heart of the chaos, hidden behind a curtain of thick gray fabric, was a small, quiet room. It wasn't marked. It didn't need to be. Only those who knew how to find it ever came. Inside that dim room, the air was still. A ring of chairs circled a raised platform, and only a few figures waited, cloaked in silence. One of them was Kirel. She was young, wealthy, and easily bored. Draped in a sleek robe of woven silver threads, she looked out of place among the dust and rust. Her pale skin shimmered slightly, a sign of her high birth. 2 guards flanked her, tall, armed, and alert. But Kirel didn't bring them for safety. She brought them because appearances mattered, even in the shadows. She sat, down with a soft sigh, her eyes scanning the room. The auctioneer, a round, bug-eyed creature named Belok, stood at the center, tapping his clawed fingers together in excitement. "What's next?" Kirel asked, her voice smooth but bored. Belok's antennae twitched. "Ah, something rare, my lady. Something nearly extinct." Kirel raised one eyebrow. "Don't tell me you've got a human." The room shifted. Some of the watchers leaned in. Others drew back. Even her guards exchanged glances. Belok grinned wider, showing a row of small, sharp teeth. Indeed, one human. Real. Alive. Untouched. A male. Strong. Silent. Kirel had read about humans in history classes. Dangerous, they said, unpredictable. Most were believed to be wiped out generations ago. She had never seen one. "I thought they were gone," she said, curious despite herself. "Almost," said Belok. "But not quite. This one survived, found in an old stasis pod drifting in a forgotten system. He's in perfect condition, for his kind." He clapped his claws and the side door creaked open. 2 robots wheeled in a cage. Inside sat a man. His skin was rough and weathered. Scars crossed his arms and face. He was tall, taller than any creature in the room. Chains wrapped around his wrists. A metal collar blinked red on his neck. He didn't speak. He didn't look around. He just sat watching nothing. Kirel stood and stepped closer. She tilted her head, studying him. "He's not exactly charming," she said. "He looks broken." But she didn't really mean it. There was something about him that didn't match his stillness. Something behind the silence. "He doesn't talk," Belok said quickly. "Eats very little. The collar keeps him weak. He's safe." "Does he obey?" she asked, her tone playful. Belok hesitated. "Yes, but you must not remove the collar. And do not speak his name. That's very important." Kirel turned to Belok, eyes narrowing slightly. "His name?" "It's dangerous," he said. "Just a precaution." She turned back to the cage. "How much?" 10,000 credits. She snapped her fingers. "Done." Gasps rippled through the room. One watcher stood up, shaking his head. "You're making a mistake," he muttered, stepping back toward the exit. Kirel smiled. "Oh, I think he'll look lovely in my collection." The man in the cage didn't move. He didn't speak, but his eyes, deep and unreadable, locked onto hers for a moment too long. Later, aboard her private ship, Kirel sat with a drink in hand while her new prize stood in a transparent chamber in the center of the room. Her guests, other nobles from nearby systems, gathered around, laughing and pointing. They had never seen a real human either. "You bought a human?" one asked, wide-eyed. "To make you jealous," Kirel answered with a smirk. "Does he dance?" another joked. She walked up to the chamber and tapped the control panel. The door slid open with a soft hiss. "Come out," she said. The man stepped forward, slow and silent. Chains still bound his hands. The collar blinked steadily. "Turn around." "Bow." "Bark," Kirel said, her tone mocking. He didn't move. "You belong to me," she added louder. "Do something." Still, nothing. Just silence. Just that steady stare. "Speak," she ordered. The man looked down for a moment. Then softly he said, "Kaelin." The name slid from his lips like a whisper. Her guard dropped to his knees. The room went cold. Another guard followed, kneeling silently, eyes distant. One of the guests laughed nervously. "That's not funny." Kirel stepped back, her drink forgotten. What did you do?" The man looked at her again. "They remember," he said. "Even if you don't." Kirel's voice trembled. "What are you?" He stepped forward, slow and sure, lights flickering as he passed. "You bought me," he whispered, "but you never asked the price." She couldn't speak. Her chest felt tight. Her ship, the walls, the lights, the air, felt wrong, heavy, watching, and in the silence, she understood something terrible. This was no pet. This was no prize. She had invited a forgotten storm onto her ship, and it had only just begun to wake. The stars outside the ship drifted like slow-moving sparks in an endless sea of black. Kirel sat alone in her chamber, the walls lit with soft blue light, but she didn't feel calm. Ever since she brought the human aboard, something had changed. The ship felt colder, not physically, but in a strange, creeping way. It was in the way the lights flickered when he passed, the way doors hesitated before opening, the way the ship's AI, once cheerful and responsive, now answered with short, flat replies. The human, Kaelin, hadn't spoken again since the night he said his name. He stayed in his transparent chamber, sitting still for hours, only standing to stretch or walk slowly in circles. Her guards refused to go near him. One of them, Reeve, asked for a transfer. The other, Talon, barely spoke now and avoided eye contact with anyone. Even her captain, Erden, seemed on edge, avoiding meetings and giving vague updates about the ship's systems. Kirel tried to act normal. She threw another small party on board, invited friends from nearby colonies. They drank, laughed, and tried to tease her about her new toy, but no one dared get close to Kaelin's chamber. They could all feel something. He wasn't violent, he wasn't loud, but he unsettled people. One guest stared too long into Kaelin's eyes and had to be helped out of the room, shaking and pale. Late that night, Kirel couldn't sleep. She tossed in her bed, her thoughts racing. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his face, calm, still, watching. She got up and called out to the ship's AI. "Status of the human," she whispered. The AI replied. "Subject remains in chamber, minimal movement, vital signs steady. No hostile activity." Kirel stared at the ceiling, unsure what she wanted to hear. She pulled on her robe and walked through the halls of the ship. The lights were dim, the hum of the engines steady, but everything felt off. When she passed the observation deck, she froze. The door to Kaelin's chamber was open. She stood there, breath caught in her throat. He was supposed to stay locked in. No one had opened it. Slowly, she stepped forward and peeked inside. Kaelin sat on the floor, legs crossed, staring into nothing. The collar still blinked red on his neck, but now it looked pointless, like a joke. "Why is your door open?" she asked, trying to sound confident. He didn't answer. She stepped inside, heart pounding. "You made my guards kneel. You said your name and they just dropped." Kalen turned his head slowly toward her. They remembered, he said. Remembered what? She asked. You're not a god. You're not special. You're just a man. He didn't seem bothered. You bought me like a pet, he said calmly. But you never asked why I let you. Carell frowned. You could have broken out? I didn't need to, he said. Sometimes it's better to let people walk into their own fear. She folded her arms. What do you want? Nothing. The word hit her harder than a threat. People who wanted something could be bargained with. People who wanted nothing, those were the ones to fear. The next morning, a warning flashed across the ship's main screen. Incoming fleet, identity, Yelvar patrol, status, armed, communication, audio. Only Carell rushed to the command bridge. Captain Erden looked pale. They know we have him, he said. They're demanding to speak. Carell nodded. Put it through. A deep voice filled the room. This is Commander Raylan of the Yelvar Guard. You are carrying a human. Confirm, immediately. Carell's voice shook. So what if I am? There was silence on the other end. Then, before she could say anything else, Kalen walked onto the bridge. No one saw him arrive. One moment he wasn't there, the next he was standing near the captain. Let me speak, he said. Captain Erden stepped aside, not knowing why he obeyed so quickly. Kalen faced the screen, his posture relaxed, his voice low. This is the last time you speak my name. Another pause. Then, the Yelvar commander's voice returned, but now it was different, tight, shaken. We didn't know. We apologize. Ending transmission. The screen went black. Carell turned to Kalen, stunned. What did you say to them? He looked at her. Nothing important. They remembered. That word again. Remembered. What was it they remembered? Stories? Myths? Old fear? That night, Carell sat by herself trying to piece it all together. The history books said humans had once ruled parts of the galaxy. Then they were gone. War, plague, disaster. No one agreed. But now, she had one on her ship. And somehow, without raising a hand or raising his voice, he had turned soldiers, assassins, and warships into cowards. She called the AI again. Is he still in the observation room? Confirmed, the AI said. No abnormal movement. But her instincts screamed that nothing about this was normal. She opened her private logs and recorded a message. This is Carell of the trade ship Verena. I've made a mistake. I bought something I don't understand. If you're hearing this, I might not be in control anymore. And somewhere down the hall, a man who said little and did even less sat in silence, reminding the stars who he used to be. Carell sat in her private lounge, hands wrapped around a warm cup, staring out at the quiet stars. She felt like a guest in her own ship now. Since bringing Kalen aboard, nothing had been the same. The walls whispered when no one spoke. The ship's systems flickered, but every scan showed nothing wrong. Her crew avoided her eyes, avoided their posts, avoided the truth. They didn't trust her anymore, not because of something she did, but because of the man who said almost nothing and yet changed everything around him. Messages had started coming in from every direction, first curious, then concerned, then threatening. One encrypted signal stood out. No name, no origin, just a clear warning. You are in danger. The human is not what he seems. Surrender him, or your world will burn. Carell had read the message over and over. Her hands trembled the first time. By the fifth time, she just felt cold. Kalen stayed calm through it all. He barely left his chamber. When he did, doors opened before him like they knew him. Sometimes they stayed shut when Carell approached, her voice commands ignored, her authority forgotten. She hated that. It wasn't about power. It was about understanding. This wasn't how things were supposed to work. That night, she called him to the dining room. The table was set, glowing with soft lights and filled with fresh food. He didn't sit. He stood near the wall watching. She took a bite of fruit and tried to speak casually. "Do you remember anything before the auction?" "I remember everything," he said simply. "Who are you, really?" she asked. "You already know." "No, I don't," she said, her voice rising. "I bought you. I was told you were weak, that the collar kept you safe." He looked at the blinking collar, then reached up and slowly unfastened it. It clicked open and dropped to the floor with a dull thud. Nothing happened. No alarms, no explosions, no sudden change. But the lights dimmed slightly, and the ship's systems flickered in the background. Carell stood, her breath caught. "Why now?" "Because the galaxy is starting to remember," he said. "And I don't need this anymore." She stepped back. "You lied. That collar never held you." "I never lied," he replied. "I never needed to be free until now." Before she could speak again, an alert flashed on the screen beside her. A ship had docked silently. No beacon, no warning. One of the cleaning crew hadn't reported in. Then her security feed blinked on. A figure in black armor moved through the lower halls. Fast. Silent. Twin pulse blades at her back. She wasn't cleaning. She was hunting. The crew didn't notice her. The AI didn't block her. But Kalen did. He was already standing in the control chamber when the bounty hunter entered. She moved with perfect timing, a shadow with a purpose. She leaped, blades drawn aiming for his chest. He didn't move. She struck, and the blades shattered like glass. Sparks flew. Her armor failed. Her body jolted with pain. Her shield turned off. She fell hard, gasping for air. Kalen stepped forward, calm as always. He knelt beside her and whispered something into her ear. No one else could hear it, not even the ship's sensors. Her eyes widened. Her lips trembled, and then she scrambled backward, tripping over herself, slamming buttons on her wrist until an escape pod opened. She launched herself into space, still screaming. Carell watched it all on the feed. One of the Outer Rim's best bounty hunters. Hadn't lasted 30 seconds. That night she tried to sleep. She couldn't. Her room felt colder, the silence too deep. She passed the engine room and paused. The monitors showed long strings of code scrolling by, lines she didn't recognize. She called the AI. "What is that?" "Code origin unknown, not harmful. Do not interfere." She already knew who was writing it. She found him the next morning, near the observation window, staring out at the stars like they were speaking to him. "Are you changing my ship?" she asked. "No," he said without turning. "I'm preparing it." "For what?" He didn't answer. 2 days later, another message arrived. This one was different. Its seal was marked Omega Black. That code hadn't been used in a century. It came from the Council of Elder Worlds, an organization that only spoke in times of galaxy-wide crisis. The message was short. Human entity confirmed. Order. Capture at all costs. Dead is acceptable. Live is preferred. Do not engage alone. Do not provoke. Await backup. Carell stared at the message. Her hands were shaking again. She turned to find Kalen already standing behind her. "They want to kill you," she said. He nodded. "They always feared what they couldn't control." "Why? Didn't you escape before the auction?" she asked. "You could have walked away." He looked at her with the same calm expression. "Because you were curious, and sometimes curiosity is the only thing that changes anything." She sat down slowly. "And now?" He looked out the window again. "Now," he said, "we see if the galaxy remembers mercy, or if I must remind them of fear." And the ship, quiet and still, waited like it knew the answer already. The stars outside were no longer peaceful. Carell's ship floated through deep space, but tension hung heavier than gravity. Every corner of the vessel felt different now, alive in ways machines shouldn't be. The walls gave off a soft hum, like the ship was breathing. The lights dimmed or brightened depending on who walked by, but they always stayed steady around Kalen. He didn't control the ship by touch or command. It responded to his presence as if it remembered him, like an old friend obeying without question. The crew had noticed it too. Whispers traveled faster than signals. A pilot requested immediate transfer. Another locked himself in his quarters and refused to leave. Even Captain Erden kept his distance. No one questioned Kalen openly. They didn't need to. He didn't issue threats or make demands, but his quiet presence did more than fear ever could. Then the bounty rose. First 10,000 credits, then 1 million. By morning it was 10 million and still rising. The galactic net buzzed with rumors. Some said Kalen was the last weapon of Earth. Others claimed he held ancient codes that could wake sleeping war machines buried beneath dead moons. The most extreme theories whispered that he was not just a man, but something more. A memory turned into flesh. A ghost from humanity's darkest age. Kirel watched the numbers climb on her private screen. Messages came in from unknown senders. Some offered help. Most offered warnings. One message simply said, "Run." She found Kalen sitting on the ship's upper deck, legs crossed, sipping water like he was on a quiet vacation. "They've put a price on you," she said. "Every major system wants you gone." He didn't look at her. They always feared what they couldn't understand. "But why?" she asked. "You haven't hurt anyone. You've barely spoken." He set the glass down. "That's why they fear me." She sat beside him, trying to understand. "Then what are you?" He turned his head slowly. "I am the reminder." Those words sank into her chest like a stone. They were simple, but something about the way he said them felt final. Rumors spread faster than light. Ships started tracking her every move. Satellites followed from a distance. She felt like a fly caught in a growing web. Her own crew began to crack. Some couldn't sleep. Others stayed in the engine room, trying to block outside signals. One engineer stopped speaking altogether, terrified that a war was about to start with their ship at the center. It wasn't long before the first attack came. They were docked at a small refueling station hidden in the shadow of a dead planet. Quiet, supposedly safe. Kirel gave orders to stay silent, to blend in and leave quickly, but someone had already found them. A single ship, unmarked, docked without warning. A woman stepped out. Slim, armored, and fast. A bounty hunter. No announcement. No backup. She slipped through the ship like smoke, silent and deadly. Kalen was alone in the observation room. She struck without a word. 2 curved blades aimed for his heart. They shattered on impact. Her armor fried. Her shield cracked. Her implants screamed inside her skull. She collapsed before she even understood what had happened. Kalen walked toward her slowly, his face unreadable. He crouched beside her and whispered something into her ear. Her eyes widened. Her hands shook. She pushed herself up and crawled backward, pressing every button on her wrist until an escape pod opened. She launched herself into space, screaming. Kirel had watched the whole thing from the security feed. The hunter had been one of the best. Now she was running like a child. That night, the ship felt even stranger. The AI didn't respond right away when called. New code ran across every system, fast and complicated. Kirel asked what it meant. The AI replied, "Unknown origin. Do not interfere." She didn't need to ask again. She knew who had written it. She found Kalen near the engine bay where the ship's core pulsed like a heartbeat. "Are you changing my ship?" she asked. "I'm waking it up," he said. "For what?" He didn't answer. The next day, a signal arrived. No warning, no encryption. It came from a source few believed still existed. The Council of Elder Worlds. The message was short and clear. Human. Entity confirmed. Order. Capture alive or dead. Do not approach without full fleet support. Kirel stared at the screen. Her chest felt tight. Her ship, the one she once ruled with full control, felt no longer hers. It listened to him now. She walked to the control deck where he stood watching the stars again. "Why did you let me buy you?" she asked. "You could have escaped." You could have destroyed everyone at that auction. He didn't turn. Because you were curious, and sometimes that's enough to change everything. And now? She asked, voice soft. He finally turned. Now, we give the galaxy a choice, to remember peace, or to fear its past. Ships began to appear outside the windows. Dozens, then hundreds. Warships from systems across the stars. They had come for him. Kalen stepped to the front of the ship. He raised no weapon. He made no threats. And then, with just a few quiet words spoken into the command link, every ship outside powered down. Engines died. Weapons shut off. Screens went black, not from damage, but from memory. They had seen him, and they remembered. Kirel watched in silence. She didn't know what the future would be, but she knew one thing clearly now. He was not a man. He was the moment the galaxy remembered what it had tried so hard to forget, and it would never forget again.